Simon & Schuster Audio presents an Inner Traditions audiobook, The Psychedelic Shaman, The Wisdom Warrior's Path to Transformation, by Soloway Pinkson, Ph.D. Read by Matthew Duplessie. Prologue. Transmission from Starlight Ohana. When we look up at the stars, we are really looking into ourselves. We are a way for the universe to know itself. Some part of our being knows this is where we came from. We long to return, and we can because the cosmos is also within us. We're made of star stuff. Carl Sagan, Cosmos, 1980. I was driving north out of San Francisco, engrossed in a podcast by astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, when a statement he made struck me so profoundly I had to pull off the freeway for my own safety. What he said wasn't new information. It wasn't something I didn't already know, yet I sat there with my body electrified, as if I were a Christmas tree on steroids. Energy streamed through my body, collapsing 75 years of experience to a coherent understanding of the purpose of my life and what I was to do with the remaining time I had. What had the scientist said that halted me so abruptly? I will tell you, but first, hear it for yourself and see what it brings up for you. Quote, "We are stardust brought to life." Unquote. At the precise moment I heard this statement, a beam of sunlight burst through the windshield, illuminating my car with its brilliance, despite the otherwise cloudy sky, and bathing me in its grandeur. Its electromagnetic photonic energy had traveled 93 million miles to Earth, just as it had been doing for billions of years, fueling the wheels of evolution to produce self-reflective life. In that precise moment, I realized I was starlight come to life. Stunned by the enormity of the evolutionary process, I thought of Paul on his way to Damascus, struck by light and transformed in his entire being. I'd been sitting in a state of amazement for an indeterminable period when a phrase began to resonate through my mind. We are stardust brought to earth. We are stardust brought to birth. We are stardust brought to life, to shine, shine, shine. More phrases continued to flow. I reached for my journal on the seat beside me and started writing them down. 14 verses emerged, recounting the story of stardust arriving on Earth, giving birth to life through evolution, and culminating in the self-reflective consciousness that reveals our true nature, our luminosity, and our purpose in existing, to polish our stardust and radiate love into the world. It wasn't me composing. I was just hearing and transcribing the lyrics onto paper. You'll hear the full song's lyrics in the final section of this audiobook. Later that day, when I got home, I put simple chords to the words and played it on my guitar. The Starlight song told a story that summarized the teachings of the past half-century of my life. I saw how all the work I had been doing over this time, all the groups I had started, all the retreats I had led, all the vision quests, all the people I had seen and worked with in my private practice, and the walk-on spiritual community I started in the mid-1980s, fit together in what was being revealed by this transmission from the Starlight Ohana. Ohana is a Hawaiian word that refers to an extended family. I realized how all humanity is made of stardust, kept alive by stardust, being fed indirectly by the force of sunlight coming to plants, which are eaten in turn by animals, both of which we humans consume, thus providing us with the fuel for our lives. The song tells the story of who we are, what we are, and why we are here. It illuminates a pathway to living a meaningful life, amid the challenges of today's threatened world. I eventually recorded the song accompanied by a video and even collaborated with my sister, artist Ilsa Pinkson Burke, to turn it into a children's book, The Story of the Starlight Song, featuring her illustrations. The message of the song encapsulates the wisdom teachings of over half a century of psychedelic shamanic visionary insights. We are sacred, worthy, luminous beings. We are loved. We are love, and our love is for giving and receiving. We are sacred because we were made by the creative powers of the universe, expressing as stardust brought to life. Because of our sacred essence, we are worthy of being respected, honored, cared for, valued, and celebrated as the miraculous, awe-inspiring, luminous manifestations of evolutionary wonder that we are. We are not here in this life at this time by accident. We are here to wake up, to wise up, and to remember our true nature, our divinity, and our purpose, to live the love that we are now. Quote, "Open your heart and be kind. Right now is always the best time," unquote, reads one verse of the Starlight song. Isn't that precisely what the challenges of these times we are living in call for? To be more loving and kind. To create a world based on love and cooperation, respect and caring, instead of fear and competition. Life is an exploration of what is possible. It's a cosmic experiment to see what we humans do with the gift of life, the gift of consciousness we've been given as part of the collectivity of humanity, woven together in a web of interconnectivity and interdependence with the entire cosmos. In 1966, I was gifted with a life-changing shamanic visionary experience, which I will describe later on in this audiobook, and have been striving ever since to live from the love that vision showed me to be true. This goal has been a formidable challenge, given the fact that my particular nervous system's wiring makes me prone to quick judgmental reactivity, coming from an animal body with a reptilian brain and monkey mind. It all comes down to being present in the moment, as what I call a psychedelic shamanic wisdom warrior, seeking to wake up, wise up, and live love now in a universe that can be tricky to navigate. That's what I strive to do in my life, and what I try to support for fellow members of the Starlight Ohana, so that collectively we can harness the infinite wisdom guidance available to us to successfully create a healthy, happy, just, peaceful, beautiful, rejuvenating, sustainable, win-win world for all. Thus, we fulfill our purpose in being here, and thus I come to write this book and offer what I have been fortunate to learn in support of you who are hearing this audiobook right now. The more of us who skillfully work together to polish up our starlight, the sooner we can reach a critical mass of consciousness to shift our fear-based, polarized world to a love-based one that opens what the Huichol people of Mexico call the Niarica, the cosmic portal, for the fullest blossoming and greatest good of life on Mother Earth. The Starlight Ohana Transmission, aka Starlight Song. We are all members of the Starlight Ohana, tasked by evolution toward a new vision of living, polishing our stardust, shining the light of awareness into the divinity of our true nature, doing our part in unity with our sisters and brothers to live love now, helping to create a healthy, just, peaceful, equitable, beautifully diverse, win-win world for all. We are joining together to create spiritual community, feeding grids of light on Mother Earth's body with high-frequency positive emotions, supporting each other, we walk our heart path to completion, using challenges as opportunities to do the work. We are opening cosmic doorways to bring through the fullest blossoming. For the greatest good for all, may it be so, and so it is. Introduction. I am the weaver, I am the woven one. I am the dreamer, I am the dream. Lorna Kohler. This book is about good news. It acknowledges a creative wisdom power in the universe that is accessible at all times, ready to assist not just in survival, but also in thriving through perilous times. This book is about becoming a psychedelic shamanic wisdom warrior for the healing of personal and planetary wounds. Living as such a warrior means striving for authentic, soulful integrity and walking your heart path to completion. It involves being an agent of conscious evolution, serving spirit rather than ego. It means skillfully navigating your challenges to allow for the fullest blossoming and the greatest good with joy, grace, and gratitude. It's about showing up to do your part as a skillful spiritual activist, working to heal the sacred hoop of life. Psychedelic shamanism cultivates wisdom warriors. This refers to the use of time-tested shamanic practices to connect with, attune to, and commune with the underlying reality of infinite, unconditional cosmic love light, the essence of our being, and living from that essence in, with, and through all our relations. The term quote-unquote psychedelic derives from the Greek words psyche, meaning soul, mind, and delos, meaning to manifest. It translates to mind manifesting. Respectfully used, psychedelics can open doorways in the mind to an expanded awareness far beyond the narrow bandwidth of mainstream Eurocentric consciousness. This consciousness, whose materially based value system has spread globally through imperialism, settler colonialism, capitalism, and consumerism, is what we aim to transcend. As you will discover in the following pages, the use of psychedelics has been a primary gate opener in my exploration of expanded states of awareness. Another significant gate opener has been extended solitude time spent fasting in the wilderness during Vision Quest experiences. The use of nature quests and mind-altering plants are ancient shamanic practices that stretch back to the Paleolithic past of our earliest human ancestors. These practices have persisted to modern times, albeit somewhat underground and certainly not with mainstream involvement, although that is changing because of their efficacy in dissolving the boundaries of ego identity, opening the human mind to its potential for experiencing an ecstatic state of cosmic consciousness and a blissful experience of the interconnectedness of all beings and of all creation. It is a unitive state where all polarities dissolve into oneness. There is no perception of separate things or separate beings, only oneness. The term psychedelic shamanic wisdom warriors refers to people who have a sense of this interconnectedness and are trying to live from the agape love that is its essence. Agape love is the highest form of love, in contrast with eros or erotic love and philia or brotherly love. There are many other ways to experience this state besides the use of psychedelics and vision questing. These include movement, listening to music, making music, singing, chanting, drumming, meditation, yoga, pranayama, praying, breathing practices, making love, tai chi and qigong practices, as well as activities that demand high levels of sustained concentration, such as rock climbing, long-distance running and swimming, surfing, paddleboarding, biking, kayaking, hiking, mountaineering, and many more. All of these activities, when performed with specific intention and quality of attention, can open gateways to higher realms of awareness of the interwoven nature of reality and to our true nature, which is infinite, unconditional light and love. You don't need to use or have used psychedelics to be a psychedelic shamanic wisdom warrior. You just need to strive to live from the love that you are, knowing and trusting that you are more than your body, more than your ego, more than your stories. Psychedelic shamanic wisdom warriors do not battle with physical violence, but with inner opponents that strive to close hearts and poison the mind. They bring agape love to action in the world, working for peace, justice, and equal opportunity for all. They evoke the warrior archetype, but fight with the weapons of skillful communication, using the transformational energy of love to shift fear to faith, shadow to illumination, and injustice to justice. They act with love. They act from love. Psychedelic shamanic wisdom warriors strive to keep their hearts open to the flow of infinite, unconditional love, which is their true nature. They live with attunement to a higher calling than ego-serving spirit, the intelligence flow of the universe, walking a love-based spiritual path to transform a fear-based culture to a love-based, healthy, happy, and equitable one, to create and work for the fullest blossoming and greatest good for all people and beings of Mother Earth. Creating a win-win world for all involves acknowledging the harm we as a nation have historically inflicted on Indigenous, Black, and Brown people, and the harm that continues to be wrought upon them. It requires apology and restorative justice, with reparations for that which was taken by violence. This is facing the shadow work on a national level, which is integral to transformational healing. Attempting to build a healthy society without doing so is akin to erecting a beautiful building atop a foundation of termite rot and decay. Psychedelic shamanic wisdom warriors hear the call and take action. The quote-unquote how of the action is up to the guidance in each person's heart. It is not about comparing or measuring your action as good, better, or worse than someone else's. It is not a competition with the winner or loser, because we all lose if we don't change how we, as humanity, are operating. This current way of operating has brought us to calamitous situations that threaten the future existence of our species, as well as many other species that are already dying off at an alarming rate. To all who feel the call to psychedelic shamanic wisdom warrior ways, thank you for the courage it takes to hana pono, Hawaiian for, quote, do the right thing, unquote, and for standing up for healing, for peace, for justice, and for equality for all people. Do what your heart and soul call you to do. Join a worldwide Starlight Ohana, an extended family of light workers supporting each other in polishing up the light we are in order to wake up, wise up, and live love now, shining transformational energy to the planetary field. As a white, heterosexual male with all the associated privileges, I have to undo the oppressive effects of colonization fueled by the ideology of white supremacy in my own mind. This belief system is deeply and subliminally embedded in the social, educational, economic, and health institutions I grew up in, and it still persists today, giving privileges to Caucasians and oppressing people of color. Psychedelic shamanic wisdom warriors recognize that it's way past time to pagar la manda, to pay the debt incurred by racist, discriminatory, and unjust institutional policies motivated by greed and fed by fear that have been part of our history in this country since the very beginning. It's way past time, but better late than never, to wake up, wise up, and live love now, helping to heal the sacred hoop. I invite you to step into your version of psychedelic shamanic wisdom warriorhood, working to heal your inner wounds, the wounds of humanity, and those of our Mother Earth by doing your part to create a win-win world for all. May it be so for increasing numbers around the world, but remember, it always starts with you and me, here and now, this day, this sacred breath. Love every step. Tomas. Step 1. Wake up. Bring awareness to the constrictive, unconsciously conditioned, quote, virtual reality software, unquote, thoughts, values, identity of self, nature, reality, behaviors, that operates beneath the level of ordinary awareness, because you cannot change what you do not see and face. Chapter 1. The Shattering. We need to change the lens by which we see the world. Jeremy Lent, The Web of Meaning. My lens of perception and understanding was shattered 2 months before my 4th birthday, when my biological dad, Fred Irving Soloway, died at the young age of 36. As a child, he had contracted rheumatic fever, which ravaged his heart. He fell ill again in 1937 while fighting for freedom and democracy against the fascism of Franco in the Spanish Civil War as part of the Abraham Lincoln Brigade, and his heart never recovered. My father's death shattered the expectations about life I had learned from the stories my mother read to me at bedtime, and they all lived happily ever after. I did not know it then, but this loss, while a shocking introduction to the teaching of impermanence, initiated a journey that eventually led me to indigenous spirituality, psychedelics, shamanism, and quantum physics. As a youngster, I knew my dad was sick. I had carried medicine to him in his bed more than once, careful not to spill. However, I had no idea of the severity of his condition. I never suspected or feared he would die. Instead, I felt loved, safe, and cared for. Then, suddenly, he was gone, taken away. And so was my mother. No one told me where she was. Months later, I learned that just after my dad had died, my mother had entered the hospital for emergency thyroid surgery and was hospitalized for 6 weeks. During that time, I was left adrift. My baby sister Ilsa and I were shuttled around New York City, moving from one of our 7 aunties to another. Quote, "Your father's gone on a long ocean voyage," unquote, an uncle told me. But I knew this wasn't true. I knew somehow that my dad had died and would not be coming back. I remember feeling clearly yet another loss of my trust in adults for telling me the truth. I felt totally alone. I am in this by myself, I thought. Shell-shocked and frightened, with no one to turn to, I shut down. I had no closure or support in dealing with my father's death because I never got to attend a funeral or memorial service or see Dad's body. No one in my family knew how to help a young boy deal with his grief at the loss of his father and the sudden disappearance of his mother. Had hospitals allowed children in to see their ailing parents in those days, I might have been better prepared for his death. So what does the body do with unresolved grief? What does a child do with trauma? The energy gets locked inside the body. In my case, this led to life-threatening asthma attacks and panicky gasps for breath. Weekly visits to the doctor for shots in both arms went on for years in an attempt to stem extreme allergic reactions to pollen, dust, and who knows what else. "Tommy, it's time to stop playing," my mother would say. "We have to go get your shots now." I hated it all. Underneath the asthma and the fear lay stuffed emotions that exploded outwardly as testosterone hit when I turned 13, leading to a cycle of destructive juvenile delinquency fueled by alcohol. I was sad, angry, short-tempered, and wallowing in self-pity. I was running a story. I got fucked over by my dad's death, so I'm going to fuck the world over twice as much. That story drove me to begin lifting weights to build up my skinny frame, so I would be strong enough to beat up anyone I might get in a fight with at school or in the street. And fight I did. Given the right provocation, something would snap inside and my reptilian brain would take over with its fear-based conditioning to destroy the threatening other. My buttons were especially pushed when I'd been drinking, which was pretty much every weekend and sometimes during the week. Twice, my opponent was so badly injured they had to be taken to the hospital. One of them might have died if the blood clot in his eye had gone to his brain. The other, suffering a concussion after a gang fight during which I pounded his head to the pavement of a back alley street in Washington, D.C., could also have died. Both hospitalized quote-unquote opponents recovered from the damage, sparing me from facing manslaughter charges. It was a gift of grace that I was never caught for my most serious offenses, including burglary, car theft over a state line, and destruction of property. I was also privileged in that my skin was white and my parents, my mother married Ray Pinkson 3 years after the death of my father Fred, could afford a good lawyer, so all I ever got was probation. Looking back, I realize I was divinely protected. I could have easily ended up in jail or worse. Another saving grace for me was spending time outdoors. Growing up in New York City had meant playing in parks, rocking on seesaws, digging in sandboxes, and roaming free in an empty lot beside our apartment building. I'd especially like climbing on jungle gyms and swinging from the bars. Being outside came to mean more when I was 3 and our family traveled to upstate New York for vacation. We stayed in a rented country home beside a small pond and a vegetable garden tended by caretakers who lived on the land. There, Mother Nature spoke to me for the first time, although I didn't understand it in that way at the time. This was my first journey beyond the city's confines, where the only untouched nature I was exposed to regularly was the occasional tree growing through a concrete sidewalk. When my mother took me out to the garden on the day of our arrival, I was thrilled with the excitement of new adventure. There were new sights to see, smells to experience, and places to explore. I'd never seen a garden. I don't remember anything about the walk to the garden, but I vividly remember being in the garden. It was a moment of epiphany, a doorway opening to a totally new and unexpected realm that transformed my understanding of reality. What took place in that little country garden so altered my notion of how things work that it remains with me today as a reference anchor, a centering point in my life, a navigational compass orienting me toward the miracles of nature and my need to be intimately in touch with its gifts on a regular basis for both my physical and mental health. So what shocking, mind-blowing event happened in that rich, black earth amid bright red tomatoes, thick yellow squash and melons, green pods of string beans and peas, insects buzzing, and warm sunlight dancing lazily in the hot and humid August sun? My mother walked me to the center of that lush and lively hotbed of growth, bent down to the ground, and pulled up a carrot. My eyes must have grown large with surprise. I don't recall if I had any awareness of what a carrot was before then, but that didn't matter because my mother immediately brushed the dirt off, dipped it into a bucket of water, then stuck it in her mouth and took a bite. I was shocked. Stuff comes out of the earth and you can eat it? I was transfixed. This was totally new for me. My only relationship with food up to this point was that it came out of our kitchen cabinet and refrigerator, so obviously those appliances were the source. But something new and revolutionary was unfolding. The next thing I knew, my mother stood up and handed the carrot to me. "Here, Tommy, take a bite," she said. I hesitated at first, nervous, but it was my mother giving it to me, and she had done it first, so it must be okay. I looked at the shiny carrot, put it up to my mouth, and took a bite. A burst of energy exploded in my mouth. Fantastic! It was true. I could eat right from the earth. A few days later, my mother took me out to the Garden of Wonders and showed me how to draw a 2-inch deep row in the dirt, the length of the garden. She picked up a small package, opened it, and shook out bits of something I had never seen before. She bent over the row and started dropping the small bits into the furrow. She handed me some bits and motioned for me to do the same. "These are corn kernels, Tommy. They will grow into corn that we can eat for dinner." It seemed pretty strange to me, but I followed her example. After all, I had already witnessed the amazing things that could happen in this new territory called a garden. She walked over to the hose and handed it to me, with instructions to hold it tight while she went to the spigot and turned it on. The next thing I knew, the hose buckled and cold water rushed out of the nozzle. I stood there, marveling at the water's force, when my mother ran over to take hold, giving me my first lesson in watering as she directed the spray to the newly planted seeds. "The water will help the plants grow," she told me. It sounded like magic, but I believed her. Equally important to me at that time was the action, power, and fun of watering. I came out to the garden with her every day of our vacation to pick vegetables and, of course, to do my watering job. I could turn the water in any direction I wanted. What control, what delight to see the sparkling, gurgling liquid make its mark on dirt, bushes, and plants. One day, as we entered the garden, I noticed little green shoots sticking up in the rows where we had placed the corn kernels. This was truly astounding. I don't know what I expected, perhaps fully grown cobs of corn such as I'd seen on my dinner plate, but no, this was something different. It was life itself coming up from an invisible underground I couldn't see. Each day, I watched in amazement as the flimsy little shoots grew taller and thicker, reaching upward to the blue sky. We didn't get to stay long enough to see the corn grow to its full height, but one day, back in the city, Mother served us a dinner that included shiny cobs of rich golden corn. "These are from the garden, Tommy, from the seeds we planted. They are full-grown corn now, and we can eat them." I was beside myself. Holding my cob and munching down into its juicy kernels was a double delight, a delicious, tasty treat and a lesson in the earth's ability to feed us. My appreciation of the natural world grew deeper when, several years later, my mother, my younger sister Ilsa, and I moved to my grandparents' home in Southern California. The new environment helped ease the pain of my father's absence. I reveled in the year-round warm weather, playing at the beach, riding horses in dried-up riverbeds, and watching tumbleweeds roll across open spaces that seemed endless. Every morning, my grandfather would take me into the backyard, where a huge avocado tree grew. He would knock down avocados with a long stick. Seemingly infinite avocados rained down daily at his poking into the branches. My job was to gather up the avocados and bring them into the house, where my grandmother used them in making our breakfast omelets. And so I learned that it wasn't just small plants that produced food. Shortly after we arrived in Los Angeles, my mother took me on a trip to Yosemite Valley. It was my first experience of mountains and wild animals, boulders bigger than houses, and cliffs taller than New York City skyscrapers. A deer ate out of my hand. A bear raided our tent in the middle of the night. I was thrilled. Nightfall brought more gifts, stars shining brilliantly in the dark sky. I couldn't recall ever seeing stars back in the city, but here they were, pulsating points of light sparkling magically in the pitch blackness of a clear mountain night. They seemed to be winking at me. Maybe my daddy was up there in that great immensity, winking at me too. Towering mountains, waterfalls, animals, and huge redwood trees. I was in heaven. I had the same feelings when my mother took Ilsa and me to visit the high desert of Palm Springs. The majesty of Yosemite and desert vastness breathed new life into me. Its majestic grandeur and wildness touched deeply into my wounded soul. Today, I understand how these early childhood experiences in nature awakened a sense of awe and the impetus to adventure deeper into the power and beauty of nature. 3 years after our move to Los Angeles, my mother remarried and we moved back east to suburban Maryland, where my new dad, Ray, had an electrical contracting business. Fortunately for me, our little brick house was next to woods and open fields. My favorite pastime, other than sports, was wandering those woods, where I roamed throughout the seasons, creating imaginary adventures and enjoying my independence as a replacement for the freedom I'd had in balmy Southern California. Cold or hot, rain or snow, my love for being outdoors only grew stronger as I grew older. Scientists have now proven that spending time in nature is good for our health, and can even measure how time spent in nature strengthens the immune system. I didn't know that then, but I was finding my path to healing within the wisdom of nature. My early encounter with death had plunged me into what mythologist Joseph Campbell calls, quote, a hero's journey, unquote. I was on a quest, driven by a question I couldn't articulate at the time. But now, in my late 70s, I recognize it clearly. In a world where death can come unexpectedly and take what you love most without asking your permission, is there anything that's truly worth basing a life on?